China's latest COVID-19 outbreak prompting a review of growth forecasts. Well, for a closer look, we're joined by Tommy Xie, head of Greater China Research at OCBC. Well, Tommy, how worrying is the latest round of restrictions on China's economy?
Hi, good evening. So I think it really depends on the overall development of the spread. But I think in terms of the near-term impact, I would say the impact on the production is likely to be limited for three reasons. I mean, the first, it's not the first time China is fighting the sporadic outbreak of the Delta variant. So if you can recall, there's one round of the small outbreaks in China's production hub, Guangdong province, back in May and June. So the impact on the production back then is quite limited. The second reason is if you look at the vaccine rollout in China has been quite fast. China has inoculated more than 1.7 billion doses. So far, China still have zero fatality against the Delta variant. So there's no urgency at the moment to impose the larger scale lockdown. So the third reason is also China has further built up its testing capacity. So we take Nanjing, for example, where the first cluster emerged, right? So in the past 2 weeks, so Nanjing has done 3 rounds of mass testing. So that's about 26 to 27 million tests done within 2 weeks. So that also helped China to fight the COVID-19. So overall, I think the impact on the production is limited, but it seems like the impact is more likely on the service sectors. So given, it happens during the China's school holiday and the summer holiday season, so China's zero tolerance policy could also mean the disruption to the service sectors, right? So I think the interprovincial travel is likely to be disrupted. So that could potentially pose the downside risks to the near-term growth outlook.
Well, Tommy, with factories and transportation links in some cities shut, what would be the impact on the global supply chains, especially after the floods and the port congestion?
Right. So I think in terms of the floods, looks like it's just like a one-off impact. So in terms of the COVID-19, I would say it still depends on the situation. But again, if the history is the guides, we can just recall back in June, there was the hiccup. If you can remember, the time actually China's Yantian port, which is in Shenzhen, right, was also disrupted by these COVID-19 cases, which actually drove up the shipping costs. But in the hindsight, I think if we look at the impact on the overall global supply chain, overall China's production, seems like the impact is still quite limited. So I think this could be the same case this time. So as long as China is able to control, I would say the impact on the global supply chain is unlikely to be very significant as what we saw last year.
Well, thank you so much. Tommy Xie there speaking to us from Singapore.